Yo, what's up? After a disappointingly mid-event launch yesterday, we get an insanely exciting Japan Buff 2 day. And you won't believe what happened because literally half of the Japanese weapons got significantly improved. Together with some other changes, like the other changes are that you now have bomber formations in the practice range that you can shoot down, which is great, especially for new players, because now you can actually learn shooting at things with your plane. And also, bomber formations aren't too easy to shoot down if you're a new player, because you need to approach them from the perfect angle. I got a little video that I made that shows how to exactly shoot down all of them with a perfect angle approaching them. You can watch that out. Also, the Wild map got a new mission. It's the Wild West now, so we're basically fighting from another direction. Also cool, and some other little changes. Nothing too spectacular here, but here's the main part. Most of these weapons that are addressed got significantly improved. The common theme is that the SMGs got fire rate increases, and machine guns got either also fire rate increases or recoil decreases, but they also are slower to use now. Now here are the details. You get the Type Core rifle, alright, nothing too special. Type Otsu rifle, little damage nerf, also nothing too special. And yeah, now comes the actually important part. Type 100 SMG early, and this is also what all the forum creatures are whining about. Type 100 SMG early increased base rate of fire from 450 to 700. Now let's take a look what that means in practice if we go to our BR1 Japanese army, as one should, as man of culture should, look at and completely upgraded Type 100 SMG. That is a BR1 weapon. It has 800 fire rate, basically no recoil, insanely good recoil control, also high shot duration, but it's relatively small, and quite high, actually high SMG damage. This is literally better than an MP40, and it's better than most German BR3 SMGs. Because we can compare that with let's say German ZK, fully upgraded, roughly similar stats, but less damage. Yep, less damage. and here's the part. This is one of the best German BR3 SMGs, and the Japanese BR1 SMG is better than that. Now, what does it say? Does it mean that the Japanese SMGs are overpowered as hell, and that this whole update is the end of the world? No. What it means is that German SMGs are ridiculously weak after a whole year, 2025, of power creeping every nation except for Germany. So yeah, that's the first takeaway here. Second takeaway here is Japan gets a significant significant buff for two reasons. First, Japan has such an unplayably weak tank and plane line that the only way to make them playable is to buff their infantry. And you cannot, for historical reasons, give them strong tanks, sadly. And the planes, yeah, it's Gaijin fucked up the planes because they're all carrier starting, which Gaijin refuses to remove as a mandatory start mechanic. So yeah, like there's simply no way right now to put the Japanese in a remotely balanced situation with the Americans. So yeah, you have to give them, based on asymmetrical balance, stronger infantry stuff. Now, this is an extreme exception because this is literally a monstrous BR1 weapon now. Is it balanced? Is it fair? Well, I wouldn't have improved the fire rate so high, but yeah. Now here's the actual problem. In real life, the fire rate was also very high. So it would be like this buff isn't just a buff that's completely ass-pulled. No, it's a historical adjustment. If you think that this weapon is too strong, Gaijin can just reduce the damage. Because here's the big elephant in the room that enlisted nerds don't like to oversee. It's that there are many ahistorical and many historical aspects in Enlisted. The one completely ahistorical part is that the damage of the weapons is purely balance based and not realism based. Because it doesn't matter in real life whether you get shot by a K98K from a 792 or if you get shot by an MG42 from the same bullets, same caliber. It literally doesn't make sense. The damage will be roughly the same. Yeah, the barrel length is also roughly the same. So the damage will be, the effect on your body will be the same. But the bolt action rifle deals double the damage of the MG of the machine gun. You see, this doesn't make sense. So it's like the damage is completely ahistorical, but it's okay because that makes the game balanced and that makes shooter games in general balanced. Because otherwise, if you would go for hardcore realism when it comes to damage models in shooter games, it wouldn't be fun, especially for all the zoomers out there who are whining if you get one shot. Yeah, machine guns would be absolutely overpowered because they also would one shot everyone. Yeah, so yeah, like this is the big issue. This whole problem with the allegedly overpowered guns can be easily solved by just reducing the damage a bit. Yeah, so this is what Gaijin has to do in the next step. This is a not completely thought out change. Obviously Gaijin wanted to quickly release it, to just release something interesting. I guess Gaijin noticed how people completely were annoyed by how low, weak as low quality the event was from yesterday. So Gaijin wanted to rush out something exciting to keep players engaged. Yeah, that's fine. They likely, since the one Gopnik who's constantly drunk and who insists on being the only person allowed to decide the balance of the game, he knows that he cannot properly balance things. Yeah, because that's why we still have tank destroyers, basically all tank destroyers in the game 1 BR too high. And I guess Gaijin's tactic is also to just read feedback and get information what players tell Gaijin regarding what the BRs should be. Yeah, so I strongly assume some of these weapons will be re-BR'd. And no, they won't be all now suddenly 1 BR higher just because they got buffed. No, I think they will. A few of them will get other BRs, yeah, but most of them will stay. It's just that I think this particular SMG needs a damage reduction to keep it not ridiculously overpowered. And parallel to that, German SMGs need a buff. Yeah, and then the whole problem is solved. But now let's go back to the other weapons. Why did I spend so much time, by the way, talking about this one rifle, SMG? Because this is literally the poster boy of this whole update. A BR1 SMG that's literally outperforming BR3 SMGs. It doesn't get any funnier. And it has a bayonet, by the way. So you can charge with it. So you can charge into those uncultured Americans who dare to oppose the Emperor. Now, we also get Type 100 Paratrooper SMG, yeah, but by also fire rate increase. Keep in mind, they also got a little nerf in terms of weight increase, so the stamina drain is faster. But don't worry, you still got your Shin Gunto swords, so you can charge with them. And then whip out your SMG in the last moment. Of course, don't forget your fast weapon change perk to actually switch between weapons quickly enough. And don't forget to level your soldiers, because what oftentimes happens, if I build a new squad like this, I just wait until the soldiers get enough experience to get 5 stars. But then I see 5 stars and I forget that they're not perked. But yeah, so yeah, never do this mistake, it happens quite often. But you might feel the difference. If you see, alright, the soldier doesn't feel, like the recoil is too much, then you might see, I forgot to perk it. Okay, then, Tokyo Arsenal, semi-auto fire edit, literally useless. I guess it's for historical accuracy, but there's literally no reason to use this weapon with semi-auto. This is literally the last weapon I would ever use in semi-auto. Because it has low damage and insanely high fire rate, and the only way to make it playable is by spraying at enemies. Then Type 1 SMG, fire rate increase to... Yep. Now Type 1 SMG... I guess it's the... Let me see. It should be the old premium squad. Yep. This thing was quite a disappointment. I only played the squad for flavor reasons and because I got it. But this thing was quite a disappointment on BR2. But now it ain't anymore. because with the fire rate buff, it's a really good BR2 gun. It's a really, look at the slow recoil and 50 bullets. It was so slow firing that it barely, well, the Americans just killed you much faster than you did them. And then it didn't matter whether you had more bullets because you were dead before you could spend them. But now, with that fire rate, combined with that low recoil and good recoil control, yeah, you go for headshots. Here's the big takeaway for all of those. By the way, it looks ridiculous. It's very short and small. Here's the big takeaway for how to use all of these Japanese SMGs. Since they all come with basically zero recoil, you absolutely want to headshot the enemies. Just always headshot enemies. Always go for headshots and just spray into the head. And due to the fast fire rate and the low recoil, you will eventually get your headshots. That's not a problem at all. You will get your headshots, and that's it. Don't go for body shots, go for headshots only. This is how you're gonna completely outperform everyone else. This strategy doesn't work with many other nations. It doesn't work, for example, with the Germans, because your fire rate is so slow that you, well, yeah, if it's slow fire rate, it's theoretically easy to control the recoil and land more precise hits. But this simply does not work, because if the enemy is moving too much, or you just get gaijined with dispersion, you're gonna miss your shot, and tada, there's no effect on the enemy. But if you have a ridiculously high fire rate, then a few bullets will automatically hit the head, and tada, you get your easy kills. Alright, then, Type 2 SMG, blah blah, increased fire rate. Now this is the other big winner. What's a Type 2 SMG? This beautiful thing. Well, it's quite ugly, but another BR2 SMG that has a monstrous fire rate now. 860. And look at these one-digit recoil numbers. Have you ever seen one-digit recoil numbers in your life? I definitely did not. This is the only thing I can think of that has one-digit recoil in both stats. Yeah, there are some horizontal one digits, but not both. I think this is the record holder. Enlisted recoil beauty. So yeah, insanely cool. Insanely cool. Yeah, you don't need high recoil control because you don't have any recoil at all. So this is really good. This is another headshot machine. You just spray at heads, and you eventually get your easy headshot kills. So yeah, another big winner of this update. Then the SIG 920 got a caliber change, okay. Got a nice damage increase, okay, very good. The big problem with the SIG always was it's in a strange state, because it isn't too slow, but for BR3 it is quite slow with 600 base. And actually, let me see, where's the SIG? Here it is. Yeah, it gets better obviously after upgrading, and the recoil is very low. Yes, amazing, but still, the numbers overall aren't too good for BR3. Like, the damage isn't too high, the fire rate isn't too high, and your 50 round magazine is only good if you have a high fire rate. So yeah, it's basically worse now than some BR2 and like possible. It's also worse than the BR1 SMG, because the BR1 SMG is much faster. Yeah, I always rather have the others. But so yeah, this thing I assume might be deranked to BR2 in the near future. So yeah, then Type 11 LMG, now reduced recoil, Type 96 reduced recoil, blah blah. Now here's the big takeaway, the important ones. The scoped 97 has more weight now and is slower. This is sadly a ridiculous nerf. Like, this is by far one of the coolest, most fun weapons in the whole game, because it's a machine gun with a scope. We need more machine guns with scopes. Yes, there were a few. Yes, most of them used lafettes, and you couldn't use them for longer than a few days, because then the scope had to be readjusted or even replaced. But still, very fun and cool to use. The Japanese were quite famous for scope machine guns. And yeah, we need more of these. Definitely need more of these. Problem is, it's slower now. The sprint factor means if you have a sprint factor of 100, you're running at normal speed. If your sprint factor is slower than 100, you're literally running with less than normal speed. So if the sprint factor is 45, you're running with less than half of the normal speed, which is bad. Usually machine guns have 50% sprint factor, so you're running at half the speed. Some machine guns, like the comfy Brownings, have for well, all the reasons, historical reasons, technical reasons, and game balance and fun reasons, have sprint factor of 75. So they're just 1/4 slower than normal weapons to run with, which is great. They were also used mobile, by just soldiers holding them and shooting. So yeah, perfectly fits the theme. And sadly, this amazing machine gun got slowed down. Yeah, it makes sense overall. It's a big boy, but yeah, it's a bit not too nice. Also more weight is always worse. But okay. Now, why I'm so butthurt about this particular gun is I was using this on even BR3. For a long time, I was using it even on BR5 as a primary, so you can snipe on long range and then use this thing on short range. But yeah, like this is literally the last SMG that should have received a nerf. On the contrary, it should have received possibly... It should have, let's put it this way, it should have received a buff on the recoil. Because if you're such a heavy weapon, your recoil will be lower. Yeah, especially if you have a bipod, whatever. Like, the heavier the weapon, the lower the recoil will be. And increasing the recoil by a significant margin, increasing the weight by a significant margin, yeah, like by like 33% roughly, 1/3 more weight doesn't decrease the recoil. Gaijin, what? Okay, then Type 99 got nerfs and buffs, but that weapon doesn't even matter. What matters is the key 7 didn't get really anything significantly changed. Now the key Type 9, why is the Type 99 by the way relevant? Because the key 7 is much better. This is the classical ugly ass Japanese machine gun structure with this obstructing magazine on top. Of course we don't want that. What we want is the good old key 7, which is basically an American, which is basically a Japanese Browning, but with 5 more rounds. And it's even a bit faster, 5 percentage points more faster. So this is an absolute beauty, and it's simply slapping Americans left and right. Especially if they try to duel you with their Brownings, and then noticing, oh, why are we getting slapped? Yeah, because the Japanese have 5 more bullets. Yeah, but yeah, like you always want the key 7. So this weapon didn't get touched, which is okay because it's already insanely good. It's already a strong contender for best machine gun in BR3. Usually it's either the Browning, because it's insanely fast and comfy to play, or the MG44 due to the 50 rounds. But this is straight up better than the Browning. And it's so fast, I would actually say this is better than the MG44 too. Because, yeah, I can easily wipe a whole squad with this thing without issues. Whereas, while running around, while being surprised, or while surprising, ambushing the enemies myself. But the MG44 is just simply too slow. And your real performance in-game just won't be as effective as with this flexible thing. And now the big booty hitters. T4 machine gun and Type 100. Now T4 is the anti-air machine gun that you can find mounted on the bikes. With the cool plate. Very cool looking, I love that plate magazine. And the big anti-air sights, iron sights you can see here. For those wondering why can't I fold the weapon properly, yeah, because this hanger sadly has a bugged weapon inspection menu, so yeah, that's why they look so ugly. But here's the big takeaway. This T4 gets a nice recoil reduction. Very nice. The weapon was great already, but with less recoil, even better. It has more weight, and it's slower now. Yeah, okay. I mean, more weight, significantly more weight, or like 50% more weight. Yeah, of course, you get slowed down a bit, it's fine. But the recoil reduction, I would say, let's say, is it worth it or not? Let's take a look. Where my machine gun set? Here they are. So 2814. Look at this. This is literally SMG level of recoil. By the way, this is how recoil of machine. Yeah, like yeah. Yep. Very good. Very nice. Very very nice. And yeah, we get basically no recoil control. This is sad. And we get a really good fire rate too. Yeah, this is overall good. Like for BR4, it's a great machine gun. If it was BR5, it would be okay, but for BR4, it's insanely good. It's the problem is though, Japan doesn't get a BR4 matchmaking. It's either BR3 or BR5. So the fact that this is BR4 isn't really, well, you don't really profit from it. You have to play it on BR5. By that token, the Type 100 is better, which also got buffed. Now, what exactly happened to this beauty? It got a weight increase by 24%, alright. It also got a speed decrease by 20%, sad. Yep, it's 10 percentage points, but it's 20%, because 50 minus 10, the 10 is 20% of 50. Before some Americans complain about my math. Joking. So yeah, it's got a semi-auto removed. Yeah, come on, no one needs semi-auto. Also, by the way, why would you want semi-auto in a double-barrel machine gun? Like, come on. That's not the way of the Emperor. Then increased fire rate of, instead of 2 times 600, because of 2 barrels, 2 times 100. Oh my god. Oh my god. 67% fire rate increase. Times 2. Yeah, like for both barrels. They're insanely good. And improved accuracy, meaning the dispersion retardation. The dispersion nerf. That still isn't shown here. Gaijin still doesn't show you the dispersion values. For those who are new, what is dispersion? Basically, every weapon gets a hidden stat that whenever you shoot, there's a chance that you miss with your bullet. Which is absolutely retarded game design, because you can literally shoot at someone 1 meter in front of you and you miss, even with bolt actions. And this is completely stupid, and Gaijin refuses to show you the dispersion stats, even though they could be easily just added here with 1 line of code, because they're obviously all already included in the game. But yeah, that's the way of Gaijin. So you basically have to search within obscure sources to find those, or data mine the game to find the dispersion stats. Yes, there is the semi-official stat sheet on a Google spreadsheet, but many of those values aren't right either, or they're outdated, so yeah, that's another problem. Now, how good is this thing? And this is the last weapon we talk about today. It is insanely good. It is, well, both barrels shoot at 1100 once you upgrade everything. Rate of fire, which is, well, quite perfect, I would say. You only have 50 bullets each per barrel, and you run out of bullets fast. So theoretically you could have more, yeah, but I would say that's quite a perfect speed. You don't want more. Anything more would be bad. So this is quite perfect. You get insanely long reload time, yeah, but it's realistic with such a contraption. And most importantly, you get also quite low recoil. So your shots are hitting, and more importantly, the dispersion is reduced, so you're actually hitting. Now, originally, once this weapon was implemented, it had an insanely high dispersion. And this dispersion theoretically worked in your favor, because since you have 2 barrels, if you shoot in a group of soldiers that's far enough away, you create quite a nice circle of dispersion probabilities, like an electron cloud. And this theoretically enabled you to just spray away groups of enemies. So basically like a really good, like a shotgun that works on any distance. But it also, because dispersion is a stupid mechanic in Enlisted, it also came with the problem that if you wanted to snipe someone, for example, you missed due to this dispersion mechanic. So yeah, I guess they reduced it now to make it more realistic, and just because people complained. Now someone, or many people already, made the great recommendation to just use the Counter-Strike mechanic of making every first shot of any weapon have maximum perfect precision. Which is realistic, because the first shot you take is usually the shot where you're perfectly zoomed in, and after that, unless you wait for multiple seconds and refocus again, you will have less precision. So yeah, this is what Gaijin definitely should do. Every enlisted weapon should have 100% precision with the first shot, so 0 fucking dispersion, and only the next shots start getting dispersion penalties, with obviously a dispersion cooldown that defines after how much time, some I would say seconds, other weapons milliseconds, when you again get your perfect precision. So yeah, overall, a great improvement. The Japanese are really, really strong. And you know what's really funny? Since I promised you to make a Japanese stream today, well, more specifically a Japanese tree and Germany tree stream, where we test out the new Japanese mortar. We're gonna also test out the other Japanese weapons to see how they can bully those Americans. Yeah, exactly. So there's nothing more important here, I would say. Nope, not really. Arizaka mortar fuse delay removed. Okay, I guess that's an improvement. Alright, yeah, so that's it. Let me know what you think about these changes, because there's definitely lots of controversy involved. And make sure to join today's stream, because we're gonna release the Emperor's Wrath on those Americans, and we're also gonna release a bunch of stacks on the Soviets. I don't even have the stacks here. I'm gonna use this premium stack, and I'm gonna use the tech tree stack, which are almost the same. And we're gonna see how playable those stacks are. And I'm gonna see how well I can use historically accurate tactics of hiding, of ambushing, of using a low profile, of using fancy parts on maps to actually profit from the low profile, so it doesn't work against my interests of making it too short and not being able to hit the enemies. So yeah, let's see how that works out. Until soon, in a few hours, and goodbye.